Weird. It's like nothing is happening today.
I know.
But it's a Saturday. The possibilities are endless.
That's the problem with infinite possibilities. One of them is infinite boredom.
What is boredom? Well, it's believed to be an emotion that's a less intense form of disgust. A visual representation of emotions developed by Robert Plutchik shows them all on a wheel. Notice that boredom shares a spoke with disgust and loathing. They are different intensities of the same emotion.
I've got a friend who is so afraid of boredom that she actually faints. After a minute of being bored at a party, she just faints, and then she spends the rest of the party under the table.
Your brain is like a hungry sponge. It's constantly absorbing information. It thrives when stimulated. Between smartphones and books and movies and friends and family, thousands of sensations are constantly going into our heads. But what if it all got cut off?
All of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. A recent study in the journal Science shows that, sure enough, most people really don't like being alone with their thoughts. In fact, they hate it so much that they'd rather shock themselves than sit quietly in a room alone. In the study, 2 out of 3 men chose to self-administer an electric shock rather than spend just 15 minutes alone thinking to themselves.
We brought people into the lab and told them that we were going to have them sit in a room. For the next 10 to 20 minutes, we just want you to sit here and entertain yourself with your thoughts. There's only 2 rules. You can't get out of your chair and you can't fall asleep. Your goal is to have a pleasant time, just entertain yourself with your thoughts, try to have pleasant thoughts. And if you want to, you can press this button.
Go ahead, shock me.
Well,
and receive an electric shock again.
just a little one.
And they told us the shock was unpleasant. They told us they'd pay money if we gave them money to not have to be shocked again. We found that about 70% of the men and 25% of the women chose to shock themselves during that 12 minutes instead of just sitting there and entertaining themselves with their thoughts.
But there was one guy who pressed it 190 times.
Oh my God, yes.
My finger slipped. So did mine.
No. No, wait a minute. Wait. Folks, if I could... This is not...
Could it be that men just like to push buttons more than women do? You know?
I don't want to do that again.
Some of the women afterwards told us, I really wanted to press that button and shock myself. It was so boring. But I knew I was supposed to be thinking instead, so I didn't press it, but I wanted to.
So you said there's a bigger problem, the bigger question you're trying to answer.
This whole line of research started with a whole different question, which is how can we help people think better? And then when we started doing it, we're like, ooh, people can't really do this very well at all.
You will be in the room for 30 minutes.
Maybe this is just college kid. So we actually went to a local church and recruited congregation members. So they were mostly older people in their 40s, 50s, 60s, a few in their 70s. We also went to a local farmers market here in Charlottesville and asked for volunteers from the community. Again, these were much older adults. And we had them do it in their home without the shock since we weren't there to supervise them. But we asked them to do the same thing, just to sit there at a time of their own choosing when they were alone and entertain themselves with their thoughts for 10 to 15 minutes. And again, they were terrible at it. They told us afterwards it was boring, they didn't enjoy it. Over half of them confessed to cheating.
70% of the men would rather shock themselves.
Service, here we come. All right, let's try the red one. Okay.
I don't want to do that again.
Try the green. Let's try the red one again. Not again. Let's try them together.
Part of it is just sensation seeking. It wasn't that the men had a harder time thinking than the women. We haven't found that in any of the studies. Both men and women find it pretty hard just to sit and think. I mean, I think the big question is, why would someone do this? Why is it so hard to entertain ourselves with our thoughts that we're willing to turn to almost anything, it sort of seems, to avoid it?
Maybe the red one.
So it's not that we can never enjoy thinking, but something about doing it on command at a certain time and deliberately. That deliberateness is really, really hard, which suggests that it may be an issue of mental control. Maybe an issue of mental control.
What about people who are trained in meditation, who do this during the day normally, or taught themselves yoga, meditation, mindfulness, things like that?
You know, we kept looking for things like this because we really want to believe people can do this. And we did find a very, very, very teensy small correlation between meditation experience and your ability to enjoy this kind of thinking, so that people who had more experience were like just an itsy bit better at it, but it wasn't like the answer, you know, it wasn't the key we were looking for. This is a study that really the more we find out, the more questions it raises.
To go from never again to, sure, I'll give myself an electric shock to relieve boredom. Sometimes stimulation, any stimulation, is perceived as better than none at all. Now, this guy doesn't like being bored, but can he resist touching it a second time?